So I like to watch the Joe Rogan podcast. If you don't know who Joe Rogan is, I recommend you check out his podcast. He interviews a lot of different people. He doesn't discriminate in who he interviews, whether he agrees with them or not, disagrees with them. He just wants to know their point of view on things. Joe Rogan is a minor Hollywood celebrity. He did a couple of shows and he does MMA announcing or something, MMA interviewing, something like that. He's big into fighting. Um, in this interview, he was interviewing a man named Adam Conover, who is also a minor Hollywood celebrity. He has a show on True TV called Adam Ruins Everything, where he uses pseudoscience to try and disprove all of the things that we take for granted, or the common beliefs in our society. He will throw sources up onto the screen as he's talking about them. You follow those sources and they link to really poorly done experiments, or just, oh, look, somebody wrote a book. Okay, well, great, I can write a book and say anything I want to. Nothing peer reviewed, nothing in solid science. And he thinks he's changing the world and doing all these great things. And I don't want to talk about Adam Conover. You can watch his show. His show is actually pretty fun, but it's just not factually accurate. But what I want to talk about is Joe Rogan. Now, Joe was interviewing Adam, and they were talking about, are there alpha males and beta males? I will leave a link in the description to the actual clip that I watched. At the end of that clip, Joe makes the claim that men have all the rights. Let's go ahead and watch that clip, and you can see what I'm talking about. And I've cut the clip down to just the part where Joe talks about men having all the rights.
I have the biggest problem with like overconfident men's rights guys.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, listen, we have all the rights.
Yeah.
Like, fucking
Yeah.
settle down.
Yeah,
Just
we
like
got enough of them.
I had a whole bit about it. I was like, it's like divorce laws, and that's it.
Yeah.
Everything else is stacked in our favor.
Yeah.
Just fucking chill out. You're making us look bad.
Well,
So ironically, Joe brings up divorce and men's rights in divorce court, which is the one area where the playing field is being leveled. Women are now starting to cry about how they have to pay alimony, something that men have had to do for generations. Here in the state of California, I know that the law is whoever makes the most money in the marriage has to pay alimony to the other person in a divorce. And if you make roughly the equal amount of money, roughly the same amount of money, then neither party has to pay alimony. So he's actually so very turned around on this subject matter that it boggled my mind that he would actually say something like this, because he seems to be somebody who really wants to seek the truth around pretty much everything. There's a few areas where I think he's biased. He's strongly biased, and I don't think he wants to look at any evidence to the contrary in those few areas. But let's take a look at some of these rights that women have that men don't have. Now, I'm going to be talking about the United States. I live in the United States. The United States is a world leader. It is known to have human rights. Other places in the world have limited human rights and often don't treat women equal to men in any way. But we're going to start with the first topic: bodily integrity. That's right, folks. It's illegal to remove any part of a woman's body without her permission, or unless it is considered medically necessary to save her life. And even then, she would have to give her permission in some form or another. However, I know that when I was a baby, I had a little unnecessary procedure I had no say in on a very sensitive part of my body, which removed part of that area of my body. And this happens to millions of babies every year in the United States. And in the past, some of the techniques for removing this part of the body have failed to the point of destroying the baby boy's reproductive organs, completely removing them from the body, in fact. What do you do then? I mean, you've just, for a fashion trend, basically taken off a man's reproductive organs. That's awful. That is like, I mean, you just messed a person up for life, basically. Now, Penn and Teller used to have a show, and they discussed this subject matter. They came to the conclusion that this was The reason this practice still exists is to provide a product for industry. That this fleshy part of the man's body is used in all sorts of different products. So that's why it hasn't died out in the United States. But it seems to me other countries are doing fine without having this a normal practice, at least not on babies um, necessarily. In some Jewish communities, I guess they do it on babies, but most of the time I think it's done on children who can speak and consent to things. So that's the big one right there. Well, I don't know if that's the big one, but that is a right there. And I want to talk about this stuff as we move along. You're going to see that there are rights on this list that women can use directly to harm men. That's not cool. So, what else do we have for rights that women have that men do not have? Okay, next up we have the draft. Conscripted service. Men have to register for the selective service. I remember having to do it when I was 18. I had to go down to City Hall and register that, hey, I can be drafted. Women don't have to do that. Women don't have to go into the military to defend their country or defend their people at all if they don't want to. I have to. And in spite of what most of what we see coming out of Hollywood, war is not glamorous. War is not fun. War is horrendous. The things that happen in war on both sides are difficult. They are life altering. That's if you survive. People coming back missing limbs, people coming back with severe PTSD. You have to integrate back into civilization after having been taught how to act as a killing machine. Women don't have to worry about that if they don't want to. Not at all. So that's one thing that it's a big one. It's a really obvious one. All right, we can move on now to parental rights. Well, we all know that women go out and they find rich men to have babies with, men that they don't really know that well, men who can afford to pay a high rate of child support to them. So they get this child support for 18 or 25 years. It might even be 26 years. You can get child support. I think it varies by state, but you can get child support as long as the child is in college. I know that was the case with my father. He had a previous marriage, and my sister went to college, and he had to pay that. She went to college when I was alive, so I know he had to pay child support. I remember when that was happening. So women can go out and they can find a man who's worth millions of dollars and say, hey, guess what? You got me pregnant. You owe me child support. And women do this. Most recently, I heard about a case involving Eddie Murphy, the actor comedian Eddie Murphy, who he got a woman pregnant and now he has to pay her child support. There's no option for a man to go, I don't want to pay child support. So no matter what, if a man has a child, he has to pay child support. Women don't have to. Women can abandon the child. Women can put the child up for adoption. Women can get an abortion, or women can choose to have their child. Men don't have a say in any of that, right? Unless the mother dies, I would assume. Then maybe they have a say, but it's all up to the mother what happens with that baby, whether it's born or aborted. I ran into this in my own personal life. I worked with two people who ended up, they had an affair. Um, and she ended up pregnant and she was going to get an abortion and he was against it, but he has no say in the matter. I think they were both being very foolish. I mean, I don't know why you would. I mean, this guy was a pig. I don't know why you would want to have sex with him, but he had a girlfriend and he was cheating on her with this coworker of ours. That's another whole other story in and of itself. But yeah, men have no way of opting out of child support, and child support is based on your income. I guess the only way you can opt out of it then is if you don't have any income, which really doesn't make any sense. This is why you have women taking advantage of men who have a lot of money. We don't have women going out and finding, hey, this guy, he makes $20,000 a year. I'm gonna get pregnant by him. He's gonna pay my child support. I'm sure that probably does happen, but you don't hear about that stuff happening because that's foolish. Why would you do that? You're gonna go find a guy who's got $20 million a year coming in and go, yeah, he's gonna be my baby daddy because then he can afford to pay me $2 million a year in child support or something like that. And that's how it works. It's crazy. It's not based on how much it takes to raise a child, which is what it should be based on. It takes $15,000 a year to raise a child. Okay, that's what you pay in child support a year. Well, actually, you pay half that, right? Because you're half responsible. It shouldn't be based on your total income. That's that's foolish. I can kind of see why that might be done. That might be done because if the child had an intact family, they would be living at a certain level. And since that family is not intact, then they could be living at a much lower level. So to keep the child from suffering that level of poverty or that economic status, then you would want them to have more child support. I disagree with that. I mean, I can understand that kind of, but I really disagree with it because the fact of the matter is, it, you're going to get people taking advantage of other people, and that's what people do. That's what women do all the time. I've heard of it happening the other way too, where women have to pay child support. But 90 times out of 100, who gets custody of the children, or who gets the major custody of the children at least? Men rarely get full custody of their children. It has to be a really special circumstance for men to get full custody of their children. Most of the time, women are the one getting the majority of custody, full custody, or it's a shared custody, right? So this is one of those things where men get the short end of the stick. The law needs to say that child support is going to be equivalent to what is necessary to raise a child in the area you live in the area where the child lives. And we need to figure out some way of allowing men to opt out of child support altogether. That way you keep these sorts of situations from happening where women are taking advantage of men to get the child support money. It's just not right. So there is a right right there that women have that men do not. So, all right. Now I want to talk about the most important one of these discrepancies between men and women rights, and that is rape. Now, it's my understanding that a woman cannot rape a man in the United States. I don't think that's one of the laws, that if a woman forces a man to have sex, it's not rape, it's sexual assault. So only men can rape in the United States. I could be wrong on that, but that's not the point that I want to make anyway. The point I want to make is about drunk sex. Only a man can be accused of raping a woman when she is drunk or otherwise impaired due to drugs. Women can have sex with drunk men all they want to, and the man can't say anything about it. But if a woman has been drinking and has sex with a man, she can say he raped me. It doesn't matter how much she begged the man for it. She strips down naked and says, "Take me now, I'm yours. Have as much sex with me as you want to." If she's under the influence of drugs or alcohol, that's rape. All she has to do is go to the police and say, "I was too drunk to consent." This is no joke. And this is the real kicker about this, is there is no definition of how much alcohol is too much alcohol. So even if it's just one sip and that hasn't worked through her system, and you have sex with her, the man has sex with her, she could press charges against you. And that will ruin your life. A conviction of rape, even the accusation of rape, which I want to talk about that sort of thing in part 2. I'm going to do a part 2 to this video. Just the accusation of sexual impropriety against a man will destroy his life, let alone the accusation. If you get onto the registered sex offender list, that's just, I don't know anybody who's on it, but I've heard people say that they were on it, and it's ruined their lives basically, or made it very, very difficult. I heard a story of a guy who got on the list. He got drunk and he like slapped a girl's butt, something stupid like that he shouldn't do and he should get punished for, but he shouldn't be punished for the rest of his life for something stupid like that, right? That's just egregious to be like, oh, you did this thing and that little thing, the rest of your life it's ruined. I can understand for more heinous crimes, yes, I get it, no question. I mean, yeah, throw the book at the guys. If a guy rapes a girl, throw the book at him. But for something stupid like that, I no, you don't need to destroy his life. He was on the sex offender list, registered sex offender list. He's like, I have to be self-employed because nobody's going to hire me. I have to disclose that on a application. So he had to run his own business. And fortunately, he was doing it and he was okay. But yeah, I think the only options are, you fly under the radar, get your own business, get really lucky and win the lottery or something like that, or you move to another country. And it only takes one time for you to have sex with a girl who's been drinking, and that's it. So these are the reasons why we're not equal. I'm going to link an article down below regarding this drunken sex being rape. And I have some other articles down there too that talk about this sort of thing. You can look at those. I'm going to do a part two to this video. It's just crazy to me to think that anybody thinks that women are not on top here in our country. And they say it's just because, oh, there's more men who are CEOs, there's more male directors, there's more men in politics. So those are not rights. Any woman can run for office. Any woman can become a director of a film. Now, there is probably some sexism and racism and such in Hollywood. Yeah, it's illegal, it's unfair, but it goes both ways. There are women's groups who keep out men. There are organizations for people who are not white who keep out white people. So this stuff is not right, and it goes both ways. CEOs, there's laws being passed to make women CEOs. It's illegal and ridiculous, but what can I do? And I've heard people say, well, women should be CEOs. Why? Why aren't people crying about women being in coal mines, women or mining in general, or women being in construction or the military or sewage work? Nobody's crying about that, but everybody's crying about, oh, there were no women CEOs. They have to have women in the high power, cushy jobs. No. There's no reason to think that women deserve those jobs any more than they deserve the dangerous, dirty jobs. So stay out of this stuff. If you don't want to do it, fine, don't do it. If you can't do it, fine, don't do it. There's plenty of opportunity out there for women, and there's plenty of men out there who use their hard-earned money to support women. I have nothing against people who are in relationships where the woman makes more money. It's fine. That's your business. I don't care. In my particular case, I make more money than my partner, my female partner. So I'm spending money on her. And I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. This is the agreement we entered into. So I'm going to do another video. Hopefully I can get to it this week. I'm pretty busy right now, but I want to talk about some of these more nuanced areas where it's like, these are not rights, but look how this breaks down. It's kind of like dividing people along lines, and if we really push this, it could be a violation of rights. So thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video, and I will see you next time.